Hi, everyone. Welcome to Authentic Expressions. And today's topic is saying no without explaining yourself. I see some familiar faces and names. Welcome. So, we want to thank Laurel Ridge for sponsoring this program. So, Laurel Ridge is a behavioral health program that offers compassionate care for every stage of life. It provides personalized treatment for all populations. Their interest is to help you into your journey of wellness. There are services for children, adolescents, adults, military dependents, active duty service members, veterans, and first responders. So they offer inpatient services, outpatient services, substance abuse, and residential treatment. Be sure to call 210-491-3591 for a no-cost assessment. So Laurel Ridge is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their mission is to save lives, heal families, create hope. All right, welcome. Our topic today is saying no without explaining yourself. So let me hear your questions. So good to see each of you again, familiar faces and names. Welcome, Dora. Hi, Zach. Yes, post your questions. Hi, Rachel, Santos, Victoria. Nice. Good to see you all. Okay, I would love respectfully say, I'm sorry, I would love to help you, but I need to focus on my current commitments. Yes, Santos, that is awesome. I'm going to say it again, what Santos wrote. Yes, I would love to help you, but I need to focus on my current commitments. Okay, welcome, Claudia, Felicia, Carolyn, and Serene. Good to see you all. Thank you for joining this session. So, again, the topic is saying no without explaining yourself. So, what questions might you have where you can say no and leave it alone rather than having to backpedal, over explain, re explain yourself? So, how can you be comfortable in saying no and leave it alone? So, let me hear your questions. I'm going to read a quote to you while you get your questions ready. So this is from an unknown author. Self-talk is the most powerful form of communication because it either empowers you or defeats you. So how do you competently communicate your responses without apologies? So how do you say yes to yourself? All right, Marnalis, welcome. Great. Look forward to having your questions. So Dora has a thought question. Saying no and not apologizing. I'm wondering if there's another way of saying no without apology. What a great question. So, hi, EK. So, what is another way of saying no without apology? So, it might be helpful to think about your priorities and how you can say yes. In honoring yourself, what can you say yes to? So, when you put others out of the equation, what do you want to say yes to yourself specifically? So many times we think, okay, I don't know how to handle this. But if you put yourself in the picture and you put yourself as a priority, as important, as a deserving, what would you say yes to? So think about how you would honor yourself first rather than what you need to say no to. So when you have principles surrounding honor, self-respect, and you use that guiding principles to help you respond and to help you build solid responses, then you'll be able to say no easier. So it's not just about saying no to other people. What can you do to say yes to yourself? All right, Victoria has a good input. I recently learned how to say no to a friend without explaining myself to him. I had to learn to respect my moral values and stop over explaining myself. Awesome. That's a great practice, Victoria. I like how you honored and respect yourself. And these are the principles in which you want to build your personal values on, to respect yourself, to honor yourself, to affirm yourself, to nurture yourself, to fulfill yourself. When you build your foundation based on these principles, and when people disrespect you, then you go, okay, that's a very disrespectful act. Then you know that those people are not healthy for you. Then you don't tolerate it as much. Whenever you have guiding principles and you work with those principles, you're more likely to stick with it. But whenever your principles are floundering and it's not clear, then you tend to compromise your values more. Welcome, Brittany. Good to see you. Nathan, welcome. Be sure to come to jot down your questions. I'm looking for questions, and the topic is saying no without over explaining yourself. Okay, Brittany, welcome. So, Osmara says, in a professional setting, when is it necessary to give a brief explanation, and when is it okay to say no? That's an awesome question. Yes. When do you give a brief explanation? And I think I want to go back to what Santos said. Like at this point, my plate is full, and I will be happy to consider it when, in the next rotation. So you can just give an overview. At this point, I have these three projects, and I want to do a good job with it. So focus on the yes, yes, and yes, the positive parts. At this point, I'm doing this. I want to focus on this. And I will be happy to take on other projects once these are completed. Then it doesn't sound like a rejection. It doesn't sound like you are not a good team player. So it sounds like you are very committed. So you want to come across as a person who is supportive of the mission and vision of the workplace. Okay, Brittany goes, how can I tolerate the discomfort of someone being disappointed or confused by my no without rushing to explain myself? Yes. So it sounds like there's a lot of anxiety surrounding their response. And it may be that you are highly attuned to how people respond, react, how people approve, disapprove you. So it's important to not farm out approval, acceptance to others. It's important to think about how you can put approval, acceptance within the depths of your soul. When you keep farming it out to other people, you are depleting, diluting, compromising your core integrity. So think, how can I build a strong, solid sense of internal approval so that you're not constantly reading other people, gauging them to respond? When you do that, it becomes very chameleon like, where you're doing things to fit what is out there rather than to fit your principles. So, whenever we have children, it's important to teach them to work by principles and not work by, a case by case and say that, whatever the friend wants, I'm willing to sacrifice and give it to them. When you sacrifice yourself, you are really depleting yourself. You're taking away from yourself. You're cheating from yourself. So, in your journey in life, be it at work, at home, in your own personal social relationship with yourself, you owe yourself honesty, integrity, to honor your rights, to respect yourself, to, to build on the foundation of self-love rather than on depletion. All right, Victoria has a comment. I feel more confident in expressing and communicating with others without feeling. Okay, very good. Without feeling guilty, maybe, without feeling fearful, without feeling discouraged. So good. I'm glad you're able to express and communicate yourself transparently. So, in this journey, as you listen to this live stream, always think about how you can show up clearly, transparently, genuinely, honestly. Because when you have these principles, then your communication is clear. It's not about a guess game. It's not about self-doubt. It's not about backpedaling. So you're easier to work with and easier to read. So in our society, we do a lot of backpedaling. We do a lot of what works best for others rather than what works best for us. So Felicia goes, I have learned to wait a day or two before obligating myself. That's great. That's a great tool. Yes. Learn to learn to pause. So I'm hearing that. I like that. I like the pauses that you use, Felicia. Welcome, Janet and Tim. Good to see you. Do post your question, Tim. Hey, Dora. Okay, Felicia goes, after I've said no, how should I stop thinking of ways they might find help? So it's like adoption. You don't want to adopt other people's problems. You your job is to find energy to complete your your responsibilities. While you may want to offer support, but then you don't spend a lot of time depleting yourself and adopting problems that you are not obligated to solve. Another way of thinking of it is other people's privilege and obligation to find solutions to their problems. Because when you keep catering, you keep going back, you keep touching it, and you keep offering support, then they know that they can use you over time. So when you learn to focus on giving other people their privilege to work and solve their own problem, then you're helping them grow and mature rather than just, treat them like they are incompetent or immature. So learn to respect other people as well. That, they came up with this, they're at this crossroads, make it their privilege to solve their problem. So learn to think of it in different way. So Brittany Jones says, it appears that over-explaining is a form of self-protection. Okay, how did we learn that? That's an awesome question. Yes, over-explaining is a form of self-protection. Okay, that is based on guilt, that is based on approval. So it is important to not just be consumed by guilt, be consumed by shame, be consumed by performance. So how did we learn that? So maybe in childhood you were trained that you had to help other people, you had to um, always give in to feel adequate. You have to self-sacrifice. You have to give until you know, you deplete yourself. So how do you unlearn that? So it is also important to learn to not use guilt to make decisions, but use courage, use calmness, use honoring yourself, use self-respect. So again, you should, whenever you grow up, you as an adult, and then you can teach your children that, your life depends on principles in which you function. Like I said earlier, self-respect is important. Self-honoring is important. Self-compassion is important. Um, Self-fulfillment is important. So learn to include these principles in how you work, how you function. Then is then it will help you make decisions easier. Chargé, welcome. So learning to say no is a complete sentence, not is not backpedaling or not having to explain yourself. Okay, thanks to Dr. Lee. Yes, always learn that, thanks for the opportunity, but yes, at this time, I'm unable to do it. So learning no is learning to say yes to yourself. Yes, I can say no to other people, and I can say it clearly, not based on guilt. Okay, Carolyn has input. How do you stay focused on yourself in this demanding world from work, family, and friends? My workplace has unrealistic expectations. Yes, workplaces put demands and put pressure on people. And as an employee, you get to dictate and you get to set the tone in which you work. So find your rhythm, find your work principles. Work can put lots of expectations, but your job is to see what you can do that is within your realm of performance. And so it's important to think, are you going there to get depleted? You're going there to get fulfillment. You're going to get there to, you know, show up in the best form for your clients. So reevaluate your principles, reevaluate your motivations, your work ethic, reevaluate, how you want to show up at your workplace. So don't just rock along and then get resentful 5 years from today. So take time to reflect on what your principles are, what your priorities are, how they sync in with your work. And so while they put expectations, sometimes some expectations can be paused, can be put aside. So it's important to think, you know, in a day, there are so many demands on us, but you also have to think about what you can pause, what you can put aside. So use the same principles in which you guide yourself and to use that at the workplace as well. Okay, Dora goes, good question, Felicia. I often try to find someone to help them when I cannot, also which takes away my time. So, Felicia and Dora, great question. So, in such situations, you know, you have to examine if you're using guilt to do your decisions. If you are just feeling like obligated, you've trained yourself to feel obligated for people rather than treat people with respect and treat them like they're capable and competent. Yes, it's important that even when people have obligations, it's that they too are able to take care of themselves. So don't treat people like they're victim. They're constantly needing help. When you give them the poor, oh, you feel sorry for them, you want to help them out. Realize that feeling sorry for people is victimizing them. It is important for you to empower people to do things for themselves. So be part of the growth process, not the victimization process. Okay, Felicia. Okay, welcome, Julia. All right. So Felicia says, I don't want to adopt other people's problems. Yes. Learn to be kind to yourself, show compassionate, and do the things that is within your realm. So you're not in the adoption business where you keep adopting, you keep fostering other people's problems. Remember, people are mature, they're capable, and they're able to say no. So, but because you have conveniently allowed them to use you, you train people to keep coming back to the same well. So it's important that you respect yourself, because when you respect yourself, people too will see that your energy has changed and they too will respect you. All right, monoliths, welcome. Sometimes we are used by committing to help a person once, committing to help a person once. So Learn to not make the same mistake twice. If you've committed to help, fulfill that obligation, but don't keep repeatedly helping, feeling guilty. Again, think of how you want to do decisions. You want to make it clearly, transparently, out of courage, out of goodwill to yourself, out of empowering yourself, out of empowering people. Lindsay, welcome. Lindsay Martin says, what practices can we use to help family or close friends see that it is not our problem? So many times when people share with us what they have on their plate, realize that your job is to listen. Your job is to not just easily cave in to solve their problems. So listening and lending a listening ear to understand. And then you can also ask questions to help them think through the process rather than act reactively to help them solve. If you act reactively, you are no different from them because they made reactive decisions and then they got themselves in a bind. And if you too fall into that reactive mode, you are no different than their family member. So you want to learn to sit back, pause, learn to use pauses. Pauses are very important. It's important in counseling, it's important in our lives, it's important in your decisions. So pauses means that, you want to take time to digest. Even in between bites when you eat, you pause. You don't just keep gulping food down your throat. So learn to pause in your life. And you pause. And when people have expectations, learn to walk away. Use your legs to help you say your answer, to help you confirm your answer. Okay, Nate says, the hard no's for me are when the request is within my means. Perhaps they know that. And then I feel bad. So sometimes the yes is so if I don't have it, I don't have to rethink it. Yes. Remember, you don't have to play Santa Claus. Just because you have it, it doesn't mean that you have to give it to the world. Santa Claus comes once a year. It doesn't mean you have to give and give and give and deplete yourself. So even though it's within your means, you can say no and you can treat people with respect. When like when you help you with your children and their homework, especially when they were little or even when they are in elementary, middle school, just because you know the answer doesn't mean that you do their homework. You help them do their homework so they become more skilled in understanding their work. So apply that concept across the board. Just because you have it, it doesn't mean that you need to give it away depleted. So you want to respect yourself, respect people, and give them the opportunity to work out their issues. So don't just put a pacifier and conveniently cave in to other people's expectations. Okay, you do not need to apologize either. Awesome, awesome. Yes, you don't need to apologize either. Okay, Jeff, welcome. It's hard for me to say no because it usually turns to confrontation. How do I get over that, even if it's going to start an argument with your loved ones? Yes. So sounds like the behavior is repeated and the behavior is familiar. So my question to you is, how do you set yourself up so that you don't get a repeat? Because you know that the person is going to behave this way. So how are you going to behave differently? So the focus is on changing your behavior, not changing other people's behavior. So it's easy to complain about others, but you also need to take responsibility and look at how you play into those situations where you're constantly setting yourself up to be in a situation where there's confrontation, there's tension, there's bickering. So think about, you know, how to avoid those situations. If it's going to repeat, learn to say, since this is going to be a repeat, my preference is to do this. So you can share it ahead of time and then learn to do an exit when the things get sticky. Okay, Brittany goes, what is the difference between being respectful and being overly accommodating when declining something? Okay, that's an awesome question, Brittany. Yes, being respectful and overly accommodating. So, overly accommodating has a feel of what? Overly accommodating has a feel of victimhood, has a feel of um, feeling sorry, feeling not empowering people. Being respectful has a feel of empowering, respecting yourself, being short, being firm, being kind, being able to walk away rather than feeling sorry, over apologizing, backpedaling. All these are very unhealthy behaviors. And if you keep using that repeatedly, people will keep coming back to you repeatedly. So you set it up because people will know that if I push long enough, hard enough, they will cave in. So that is over accommodating. Respectful is you deliver your answers, you walk away because you don't want to set it up so that you backpedal. Okay, Julia goes, if someone asked me for help, I felt my reason had to be good enough in order to say no. I couldn't say no because I just wanted to relax or just don't want to do it. Well, that's a good training because in the past you've probably been trained that your job is to help until you deplete. So in healthy self-care, you don't live life based on the depletion principle. You live life based on the empowering, fulfilling principle. So learn to transform your thinking pattern rather than just think, okay, I have to give. Whoever gave you that message, it's time for you to rethink your message. Now that you're an adult, you get to rewrite your script. You don't just be robotic and follow what other people tell you. If you do that, it becomes very cult-like. Then you're not using critical thinking. So part and parcel of having our brain structure is to be able to use critical thinking to do what's in our best interest. Good. I'm glad you're getting better at saying no. So, Jerome, welcome. I have learned that saying no is a form of self care, not to look at it like I'm hurting someone else, but I'm helping myself. My guilt came from wanting to people please and seek approval. Yes, well stated point. Thank you. I'm glad you are taking care of yourself. All right. Carolyn goes pause, breathe, think priorities. Awesome. Brittany Berry, welcome. How do you go about saying no without coming off as rude, defensive, when you're very firm with your boundaries? Okay, excellent point. How can you say yes to yourself? How can you say no? So learn to say, at this point, my plate is full. Focus on what you have on your plate. And then learn to have your conversations short, sweet, to the point. Don't hang around, and beat around the bush and rehash the problem and look at it from 20 different angles. When you look at that, people know you're backpedaling. All they have to do is hang in there, and after 20 minutes, you will cave in. So that is teaching people to disrespect you. So learn to respect yourself. All right, Shashay goes. One good one. Also, learning to say no doesn't always need to be a long, drawn out excuse. That's our people pleasing animal. Yes, what an excellent point. And Janet Castile says, I didn't stop helping others. I simply acknowledge I love helping, and each person gives what they have. You can't expect the person to help you in return, and the favor paying it paying it forward mentality. Yes. So learn to obligate yourself first. The goal, the priority is to ensure that you follow the principles to live by, to have self respect, self honoring, self fulfilling, self compassion. Awesome questions, awesome feedback. Thank you so much. So, next week, our topic is helping children and teens build self esteem from inside out. Helping children and teens build self esteem from inside out. Be sure to bring your questions. So, a lot of us work with teens, children. We have children and teens at church and things like that. So, how do you help them build self esteem from inside out? Thank you for attending. I know and appreciate your time, and I know that you have a very busy schedule. So thank you for showing up. So again, this program is sponsored by Laurel Ridge. So Laurel Ridge is a behavioral health program that offers compassionate care for every stage of life. It provides personalized treatment for all populations. Their interest is to help you into your journey of wellness. So call Laurel Ridge 210-491-3591 for no-cost assessment. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and look forward to seeing you next week.